Hey people, it's Teal Gamer talking about correcting uneducated gamers. This video is being used as an introduction to a series of other videos I've created titled Poor Game Development. What it basically boils down to is this. Telling an uneducated gamer they're wrong, even after presenting facts, is exactly like arguing with a cop when they are wrong. You will never be right, regardless, and they will always try to find something to get around what you're saying. So basically what I've done in this video is I've taken 5 words that the average gamer uses incorrectly, and I'm going to pull up the definitions of them using 2 of the top world's dictionaries that everybody goes to. Now, that's not saying that, these dictionaries are the best in the world. However, it is a general consensus when everybody's going to this that these are what are commonly used. So I'm not saying these are the best dictionaries. I'm saying these are what's commonly used. The reason I basically brought that up is because of what I'm going over in this. So the first thing I'm going to get out of the way is I'm using Merriam-Webster and I'm using the Oxford English dictionaries for this stuff. And basically, this video comes down to I am sick and tired of gamers trying to say that a mass consensus makes a fact. So we're going to look at some of these definitions, and then you can apply this video to the poor game development videos that I'll be explaining. So let me get right into it. The 2 dictionaries I'll be using in this video is Merriam-Webster, which is shown on the left side of the screen, and Oxford dictionaries, which is shown on the right side of the screen. And the first word I'm going to look up in both of these is the word fact. In the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, we see that fact is something that truly exists or happens, something that has actual existence, a true piece of information. And on the left, the Oxford Dictionary has the word fact as a thing that is indisputably the case. Now, I want to point out, too, that in the Oxford Dictionary, in both dictionaries actually, that an underlined word that can be linked to this word means it has relevance to the word, because gamers have a vicious habit of throwing in definitions to words that have no bearing on anything and then say it's related. Well, I'm going to show you that's not true. So anyway, the first thing I'm going to look up right in here for the word fact is indisputably the case. So, indisputably, let's take a look at what this actually says. And it says, in a way that cannot be challenged or denied. So let's look up the word challenged. Okay, the word challenge means a call to take part in a contest or a competition, especially in a duel. So pretty much, when somebody says you're wrong about these facts, facts are indisputable, that they cannot be disputed. And if you do try to dispute it, you're actually challenging them to prove that the fact is actually wrong. Which brings me to the next definition that I'm going to pull up, which is the word opinion. Here in the Merriam-Webster's on the left side of the screen, we say a belief, judgment, or way of thinking about something, what someone thinks about a particular thing, advice from someone with special knowledge, advice from someone with special knowledge, advice from an expert, a formal statement by a judge, court, etc., explaining the reasons for a decision that was made according to the laws or rules. Well, these don't apply, but I'm going to point out that a belief, judgment, or way of thinking about something, what someone thinks about a particular thing. So what somebody thinks about something isn't a fact. A fact cannot be disputed. Now let's see what the Oxford Dictionary has to say about the word opinion. It says, a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. So we've now agreed and proven that an opinion is not a fact. So if I say there are no instructions on the screen and there's no printed instructions, that is an indisputable fact. Because if it was disputable, there would be printed instructions on the screen. So somebody saying it's explained without there actually being text on the screen is somebody's opinion, because it's a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge, where a fact is actually indisputable. So to challenge me that there are instructions on the screen when there's not would be for you to prove that there's actually printed instructions on the screen. So that brings me to the next definition of the word, which is explain. And here in the Merriam-Webster's dictionary on the left side of the screen, it says to make something clear or easy to understand, to tell, show, or be the reason for or cause of something. So I'm going to point out here that the definition of explain is to make something for what I'm talking about, is to make something clear or easy to understand. Now, over in the Oxford Dictionary, we see that the definition of explain here is to make an idea, situation, or problem clear to someone by describing it in more detail or revealing relevant facts or ideas. So let's look at what clear to means. And here we see that the definition of clear, which is linked from clear to make something clear to understand, is easy to perceive, understand, or interpret. Now I want to point out that perceive is a perceptionary issue, which means it would be in your mind and it has no bearing on something that actually is clear. You can't take a perception and say it's actually clear and then state that's a fact, because it's actually not. If perceive was connected to clear, it would have a blue underline under it. That's just how it works. So let's look at the word understand real quick. And here we see understand actually means perceive the intended meaning of words or language or a speaker. And further down, I'm pointing this out because perceive the significance, explanation, or cause. Now, the reason why I'm putting out explanation is because that's the next definition I'm going to look up, and we're going to see what that means, which we've already done because it's back here. To make known, to make something clear or easy to understand. So if there aren't instructions and somebody guesses what to do, that's an opinion, that's not a fact, and it isn't clear. It may be clear to you, but that's a perception and that's an opinion. It's not a fact. So that brings me to the word tutorial, which is basically what this whole video is about. It's a pet peeve of mine when gamers try to say that there is a tutorial in the game, but yet the tutorial itself is missing information, isn't complete, isn't clear, and you pretty much have to guess at it, and then gamers actually say that's a tutorial by saying, well, they're making you do work. Well, let's look at the word tutorial, because I don't care what a mass consensus says. This is what the definition of tutorial actually means. So we're going to look this up. I already have it in the Oxford, but I'm going to look this up right now. And this word's a little vague, which is why I'm using the Oxford Dictionary too. So let's see. Of, relating to or involving a tutor or tutorial. So let's look at what the Oxford Dictionary has to say, because there's going to be words linked to this. It says, of or relating to a tutor or a tutor's instruction. So let's look up the word tutor for now. And we see that tutor, a private teacher, typically one who teaches a single student or a very small group. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because let's look at the word teach here. And here we see teach actually has the definition and the word explain attached to it. So let's see. Show or explain to someone how to do something. So, if you have a tutorial, it's basically a tutor that's supposed to be explaining to you how to do every single step of the process. That is a fact you cannot argue with. I just went over this whole thing. That brings me to the next part. And the final word, which is instructions. Now, if a game is a tutorial, it is supposed to be having instructions. Which means it's supposed to be teaching you how to do something from a tutor that's supposed to be explaining every step of the process very clear so it's easy to understand. So, instruction states a statement that describes how to do something. An order or command, the action or process of teaching, the act of instructing someone. In the Oxford Dictionary, we have often instructions, a direction or order, directions to a lawyer, code or computer sequence, instructions, detailed information telling how something should be done, operated, or assembled. Now let's look at the word detailed. It says here in the Oxford Dictionary, detailed. And actually I'll pull this up in the Merriam-Webster as well. So I'll go over here to the Merriam-Webster and says, including many details, including a lot information. Oxford Dictionary says, having many details or facts showing attention to detail. The reason I brought this word up is because people have this nasty fucking habit of being stupid and saying it's very detailed and explained. Well, if most of these gamers had any clue to what the fuck they were talking about, they would realize that a game developer that puts the word tutorial into the game doesn't explain a damn fucking thing. And even though it's shown in the video, what I said at the beginning of this video is trying to argue with a gamer that they're uneducated and that they're wrong is like trying to argue with a cop and telling them that they're wrong. Even after I presented all of these facts, gamers will still try to make an excuse for saying that the game is explained or has a tutorial or whatever else. Well, the fact of the matter is, gamers are following game developers, and if that's the case, game developers are not educated either, because you cannot put something in a game, say it's a tutorial, and then leave information out, and then actually try to argue that that's what it is. So I just wanted to get this video out of the way, and I will be linking all of my poor development videos to this video. If you haven't seen it, watch it, and you'll get a kick out of this because this is very amusing. So what I'm going to be doing is presenting facts, and again, we all know what that means. So anyway, that's the end of this video. Have a good day.